Hi, our winner. All right, so the news that I think surprised nobody came out last week. Duke Nukem Forever is over. 3D Realms is over. This isn't so much newsworthy as it's kind of an interesting kind of timeline since the announcement of that game and where we are now. I know it was announced in 1997, but I remember talking about it so much on GameSpot TV, which, started in 1998. And I've always joked to myself that would this game come out before my career is over? Or, what's going to give first, me or the game? Well, now we know the answer. The game gave first. So, winner.
I came here to do two things tonight. Watch Feedback and chew bubble gum. And I'm all out of gum.
Ladies and gentlemen, introducing Feedback Live with your host, Adam Sessler. Along with Abby Happy, Matt Kyle, Rob Manuel, and Kevin Kelly.
Hail to Feedback, baby.
Of course, that was John St. John. A round of applause. Thank you so much for doing this. The voice of Duke Nukem. I must say, you're a man with job security unlike anything I've ever seen. So, best of luck and more Duke games. Hi, welcome to Feedback. Obviously, we have just introduced the panel. This is for the week of September 4th. And I'm going to let you know tonight, we are actually going to try to do this like a proper feedback. We're going to do some news. We're going to have a game of the week. We're going to do some questions. And we're actually trying to allow for more feedback. So around each topic, there will be a mic around here, and you can ask a question pertaining, hopefully, to the topic. And if that all works out, that's great. The other thing is, some of you are probably aware, and I love you for it, that you're not at the Star Wars Old Republic panel. We have every reason to believe that there might be an announcement or two there, so all of us will have our BlackBerries, and we have Morgan and Blair Herder that will be allowing us to give you updates if anything significant is announced at that panel. We thought that was the least we could do. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. So let's start with some news. Hey, Abby, did anything interesting happen at PAX?
I don't know.
Yeah, like an announcement?
Something that just pertained to the entire opening of Feedback?
Oh, yeah, that. Duke Nukem, Forever. It's real.
Yep.
Randy Pitchford and Gearbox are developing.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to get in the first demo of it on the show floor, and Randy did a wonderful speech beforehand.
Yeah, he was explaining that he understood he was undertaking a big deal and there would be rewards in the future.
Yeah, I finally learned what a Chilean miner is.
Yeah.
Maybe some of you saw the same demo.
Yeah. Apparently, it's when you go down and don't come up till Christmas, and that's his reward for getting Duke Nukem out.
Yes. So, well, clearly he understands the humor of the game, right?
Yeah, I think that's definitely it. Now, I guess the biggest surprise for me on this one is that, Duke Nukem, I guess the Gearbox, has been working on this longer than I would have imagined.
Yeah.
It's not like they just got the game and they're trying to polish it.
And
They've
it's
had it.
apparently coming out sooner than, 12 years.
13 years.
13?
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll finally be 13.
Sooner than never is still sooner.
Yes.
That's true. And they'd even say in the trailer, they said something to the extent of, it better be good. It's taken 12 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what did you think of the game? And while you're telling us what your impressions are, John, do you want to come up? We have a couple of questions for you about this, game that's been in development for quite some time. How did it look? It looks like...
You can't ask me a question while he's walking
Yeah,
up.
he's walking up. That's the silliest thing I've ever done. So, I was curious, John. You can just jump right there.
Yeah.
How many voice recording sessions have you done for this game?
For Duke Nukem Forever
Yeah,
specifically?
just for Forever.
3.
3. And were they all towards the beginning of the development of the game, or were they spread out over the 12 years?
The first one was in 2007 or 8 when they had me say the line, "I need to find an alien toilet to park my bricks." Sorry.
That was 2007?
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
So, they weren't even ready to do voice.
No.
Until that point. Were you, I have to ask, just a little skeptical? Like, guys, you might want to get a little fire under the bum?
Yeah, they gave me one line to read. I'm like, one line does not a game make. So, the first real session was last December. Mm-hmm. And so I've been...
And that was with Gearbox? Or was it with 3D Realms?
Actually, that was with Triptych.
Okay.
So,
it looks
5 or 6 people who left 3D Realms became Triptych.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay, that's interesting. This has gone through a couple of hands. I guess also, like, with regard to the character, he is a very kind of 80s, action hero. And when you first started doing it, it did have its level of satire. I find it very interesting that with the Expendables, coming out being so popular, that maybe this delay is going to work in the game's favor because we're back to that sense of irony about that type of action hero.
Perhaps. I'm hoping even more so that it works in my favor. And with CG being so well developed now, maybe there will be a motion picture of Duke Nukem, which could be.
You know what?
I've heard rumblings of
You
it.
better start working on it.
Yeah. Schwarzenegger's out of office, so he's got to go make some money doing that old job he did. So, I guess, yeah, I guess I'm still in a slight state of shock about this game. Do you think that it has been so long, and given the fact that it was like the #1 trending topic on Twitter?
If you want to ask if
worldwide?
people still care, I
know.
would say yes. It's very rare to see anything video game related trending there. Anything that's not Justin Bieber, actually.
Yeah. I guess I'm curious what any of you guys think. Like the game, I think people are just excited because this game that everyone thought was dead is back, and that quality be damned, everyone's just really interested
More
in this
people
game.
care because of the amount of time that it's taken.
Yeah, I think you'll have at least moderate sales based on curiosity and the fact that it's a 13-year running gag. I mean, it's in some ways it's kind of what Elite Lead wanted to be.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that you can't buy that kind of, basically prestige almost. In the
Yeah,
industry.
I think it'd be interesting if they incorporate the delay that's made it so notorious and probably so well known into the marketing campaign.
Well, I think that's exactly how it's going to work. The game isn't going to be released any day now, which I saw somebody tweeted. Oh, it's going to be out any day now. It is not. There's still polish being put on the game. The multi-platform is still being, finalized. And it does work in their favor because now the buzz is out. Everybody knows the game is happening. So a couple of months of that kind of buzz going on, and then a national ad campaign before the game's released.
Yeah.
And boom, it should...
What's another 12 years? Really?
Yeah, exactly. Now,
I don't think the ad campaign's going to last that long.
how specific has 2K or Gearbox been about when this game is coming out? I don't think anyone is thinking it's this year, but have they said
No,
2011?
not this year.
They said 2011.
They
Yeah.
said 2011. I just think, and this is more as humor as anything else, that obviously this is a game that's so notorious for being delayed. That's in the hands of a developer whom I greatly admire, but isn't also well known for getting games out in a timely fashion.
Well, they originally told me they were thinking about releasing it April 1st. And I said, God, please, no. April Fool's Day, you gotta be me. You've jerked off the players for so long. Please don't do it anymore.
Now I think that is a good idea. Just people have to be guessing, lining up at the store to see if it's actually on sale.
Exactly.
So, do you have any idea, sense of sort of, or maybe you when you were talking to Randy or anyone, what the series of events were that led to them deciding to adopt this game? Now, obviously, all these people at Gearbox are former 3D Realms employees.
Well, that pretty much sums it up.
Yeah.
I think that he, definitely wanted to take this project and, turn it around, especially because of their connection with the game, and it's pretty logical, actually.
Is it like kind of rescuing a kitten, or is it something that they're like, yeah, I really have some, some stuff I want to do with
I think
this?
it's
No,
just it's irony.
Yeah.
And Randy kind of going like, "Ha! I told you I'd get it done."
Yeah.
Coming
Yes,
back.
exactly.
Well, the way that he
Duke
was
Nukem
talking about.
was really his baby. It made his career.
Oh, yeah,
Randy moved to Texas to work on the original 3D. And
Actually, I found out only recently that Randy and I were both attending UCLA at the same time. Never knew each other.
no kidding.
Yeah.
It's a tiny campus. How
Yes,
did you-
I know, exactly. Me and those two other guys. But
Yeah.
I didn't know one was Randy. So I guess the game looks like it's getting an M rating when you saw it.
Oh, no, not at all. T for teen.
T or T
I'm
for
just messing with you. Oh, yeah.
T for T and A.
That,
That's more like it.
yeah. That trailer was. This game is probably going to have all sorts of problems with the ESRB in terms of getting footage out.
Boy, and Take-Two
the trailer that
Interactive
we
sure
saw.
wants that.
There's a reason that trailer that we saw isn't on anybody's website.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
But
it starts with him pissing into a urinal and ends with a couple. It's profanity laced and
Let's
a
not
couple.
forget. There's lots of in the trailer.
And
Oh yeah.
Well, there's actually 3 on one creature, isn't there?
yes, there's actually.
Hell, I'd still hit
It's
it.
like, what are we gonna do with that extra space? I got some pixels. Let's
Add
get
a
another
boob.
one on there. So, what was your impression? I guess what I'm excited about with the game is that we have had so many serious shooters over so many years.
Yeah, it's
And
nice to have
this
a
is-
goofy one, isn't
yeah,
it?
this is just the pinnacle of irreverence without being Matt Hazard.
Exactly. Well, I mean, and that's the hope, because that game, when you're trying to use those sort of tropes, you sometimes run into the same pitfalls that those games had, and why those things are funny to us, but they don't actually make for a good game.
Yeah.
And so it's finding that balance between, oh, this is funny because it's happened in shooters in the 90s, and this is just a horrible, horrible game design. So
Yeah.
I don't think that they're going to suffer from that as much. It seems like they understand the whole humor element, and there's so much fan service in the game.
And it does have the legacy of Duke Nukem 3D.
Yes.
So there is, a template, albeit a very, very old one.
Yes.
That they can follow.
And we were both surprised, at how good it looked. I mean, first of all, the announcement, then that it was playable. We were like, okay, maybe it's just a rough, 3-second thing. But no, we had a great time.
We played a couple
playing
different
it.
levels. We played the first level. We played level 15. There's vehicles.
I mean, is it still styled as a game that feels more from the 90s than from this era?
It definitely
See, that's
has
kinda
that
cool,
element.
as long as it works.
Yes.
It's kind of a throwback to, ooh, look, it's just
Well,
a lot
now
of
you don't
creatures.
have to wait that much longer to play it.
Yay. Well, John, thank you so much for joining us. Actually, if you want to stay for 1 second, does anyone here want to try to do some of that feedback and have any inquiries or statements that we can discuss regarding Duke Nukem? So that gentleman there, we have Mike here is willing to. He's playing our Phil Donahue today. We wanted
We
to
get
get
a
him.
white wig for him.
Yeah, actually, one thing that is also interesting is they waited until PAX specifically. We only heard word for maybe a few days before.
I think that that's a very interesting point. I have every reason to believe there will be more significant announcements from other games during the course of PAX. And the whole idea that sort of a place like this, E3 type announcements suddenly
No,
happen.
it absolutely makes sense. At E3, there's a lot of chances that your news can get buried under other things because it's where all of, the big games are shown. I think if you showed it at PAX, and it's a game that the community talks about so much, I think it's a perfect place for it.
I mean, I kind of like it because I like PAX so much better than E3 in terms of what it does to my body. We can kind of shift some of the burden over here. But, I mean, do you see this as a trend, like the Comic-Cons and things like that, becoming a little more newsworthy rather than just kind of informative and fan service?
Oh, yes. I mean, it's be able to sort of spread out these news, these sort of getting the word out, especially with PAX, because this is sort of like the fans' big event, and to actually have something that the fans themselves have been hungering for so long. It's great to actually have someone recognize that as a form of getting the word out, spreading the word, like the Twitter, like the fact that it is the number one subject,
Worldwide trending
trending topic on
and
Twitter.
if it happened at E3,
It's going to get
would have
buried.
happened on Twitter.
It's just going to get buried by everything else.
So, thank you, PAX, for
Yes.
doing that. Let's have one more regarding Duke Nukem. I'm well, I think.
Is it on?
Am I?
Okay.
Yes.
This is for John. I was a big Nintendo 64 Duke Nukem 3D, and then one came out again called Back in Time or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it just feels good after 13 years to hear your voice again. It brought back a lot of old memories, and I hope a lot of people go out there and just have fun with the game. That's what I gather from it. Just mindless fun and cussing and boobs and all that good stuff.
The great thing is that finally, to me, my voice will be heard in 16 bits instead of 8.
Ooh, yeah.
So,
All of that timbre we've been missing.
oh, it sounds so good.
Well, you do a lot of voice work. What else where we have heard you in?
Oh, wow. Well, I have about 160 games to my credit. If you're familiar with Half-Life games, I was all of the soldiers and Dwight T. Barnes, the drill instructor. Mm-hmm. That was a takeoff of Arlie Ermey from Full Metal Jacket, I like you, son. What is your major malfunction? Gosh, I've done so many games. The one voice that I'm not really proud of, and yet when I go to these anime furry conventions, people love me, is Big the Cat from the Sonic the Hedgehog games.
Where's my froggy?
Oh, God. And it's funny.
Any fans on this panel?
Of Big the Cat.
No Big the Cat fans, no.
No one's going to admit it, but they're out there.
Now I think I would like to see a fight to the death with Nolan North. Because you may have about the same amount of credits
Could be good.
for VO supremacy in the video game world.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to make that happen. It's my new sidekick as the promoter of completely
I like a
inappropriate
good
matches.
fight.
All right, well, John, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Best of luck with the game. I have a feeling at least you'll be seeing some of us as we go on this road towards the final release of Duke Nukem Forever.
And by the way, there will be more news about Duke Nukem Forever tomorrow at 3 o'clock.
Oh, that's right, because I believe there's a Gearbox panel.
That'll be a Gearbox panel.
See, like I said, there's going to be announcements.
And I'll be there signing the autographs and doing that kind of stuff. So please
Awesome.
come by.
Cool.
Come by. Are you going to play music to play me off?
We don't
Do we have music?
We all whistle so I can. Thank you.
So our second piece of news, Dead Space 2 has multiplayer.
Yes. Is that really that surprising?
No, but if you think about what Dead Space is like, it's all about being kind of alone. So it's not exactly the first franchise. I'm like, oh yeah, multiplayer.
I think the weapons fitted really nicely. I really look forward to using the Ripper on people. It's just sawing limbs off. I hope you're more aliens.
Do we know much about what this multiplayer is?
It's really there's not much detail about it. I would imagine soldiers versus necromorphs is very likely, which I think is really cool. The kind of creatures versus soldiers mode has been really popular in the past couple years. Some people do it better than others, and I would like to see it for Dead Space because it's a game that I've enjoyed so much. So,
Matt, Rob. Kevin, I guess it's one of those cases where I think we get a lot of, maybe there's someone out there that feels that way. Those comments of, hey, if this doesn't feel like a multiplayer game, or the first one didn't have it, is this going to be tacked on? Is this really going to be sort of a strong, aspect of the game?
Yeah, you worry about like you said, it's a solo game. You're playing as Isaac. You're the lone guy trying to fix things on the station and everything. And if you add on multiplayer, if it feels in any way not equal to that experience, it's going to be lambasted, because people are going to be like, well, it sucks. It's not the game.
It's just not fleshed out.
Right.
It's not.
Or if it's tonally so different. And that's why I think, because there is that sense of isolation that you get in Dead Space, and I think it's very hard to create a sense of isolation in multiplayer, although I would like to see someone try.
I would
We had
too.
the same skepticism, I think, of Bioshock 2 with its multiplayer, and it turned out better than we thought.
Yeah, and it did work out much better, so. Well, anyone have someone like hot to trot on the Dead Space 2 multiplayer? That guy's hot to trot on the Dead Space 2 multiplayer.
Okay. I think horror games could pull off multiplayer. I mean, you have Fear 3 that has a co-op, but it's still a horror game. And then the more popular Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2, those pulled off really heart-racing multiplayer. And there shouldn't be any reason why this company couldn't pull it off.
I would suggest that there's Left 4 Dead, which is, essentially a multiplayer game, and it's really centered all around that. And then you look at something what The Darkness did, where it's creatures versus soldiers, and it's not particularly fleshed out, and it's fun for a minute, and then you go on to something else. And multiplayer tends to fall into the one category of you're going to play this every day for the next year, or you're going to play it for a couple days and decide it's not something that you want to continue with. And there's no real middle ground, for me at least. And I kind of wonder which way that one's going to go. And I don't care, because I play that game for the single-player experience.
And I think also, I know there's a lot of times where multiplayer is added into games because in the publisher's eyes, that's going to, prevent
Extend
it
the
from
life of it.
Right, it won't go back onto the used game shelf. But I just have a feeling that Dead Space 2 is going to sell significantly better than the original Dead Space because it's been one of the top sort of resale games out there.
And I know that if a single-player campaign is good enough, I don't resell that game because I'm proud to have it as part of my collection.
Proud. Standing
Proud.
there. Trophy. Yeah. Oh, it's right there. All right, so Take-Two, who's putting out Duke Nukem Forever, maybe one of the reasons they're willing to take a gamble on a game that took 13 years to
made a
build
lot of money from Red Dead.
Money.
Yeah.
How much are they making?
That game has sold 6.9 million copies.
And it came out in April.
Yep.
And we are in September. That's good.
Yep. $354 million. So they're doing all right.
Well, and then I guess what's so interesting is that, here's this company that always has had, even though they're making money on a game, they've had a lot of financial problems. I remember there's a point around 2000 where I think they restated their earnings like every other day. And it's like, that doesn't really look good.
And in 2008, EA tried to do a hostile takeover, and that was very close to happening. And they were in bad shape then. That was only 2 years ago.
And Mafia 2 came out. I don't know if we have enough data on how well that's been selling, but I mean they seem to now have a steady supply of games. So I don't know. Maybe The Lost. Remember that game Irrational was working on?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Maybe that suddenly will be rescued. And once again, hey, look, they have Ken Levine. This could be a very interesting.
You'll
year
enjoy
coming.
seeing what came out of the BioShock Infinite and Game Informer panel today, because they have these great covers that look like the Saturday Evening Post, but with the BioShock characters. And I urge you to all find them on the internet because they're amazing.
That sounds really good.
Yeah.
So, Rob,
Yes, sir.
one of the reasons we brought you up here is that you've been wandering the floor looking at a lot of the indie games.
Yes.
Originally, PAX really was this wonderful showcase for independent developers and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I'm looking at you. What's the one I've heard about is Retro City Rampage.
Retro City Rampage is great. It has sort of this original GTA look, so it's the top-down sort of 8-bit gameplay mechanic. You run around, you shoot a lot of stuff. They actually have missions, different areas. They actually do have a lot of other places more than just GTA. So they make references to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They make references to Mega Man. They make references to just a lot of different Nintendo and early 16-bit games.
Even like modern day stuff, like The Dark Knight. There's a scene in Retro City Rampage where this group called the Jesters, like the Joker, they are doing a bank heist, and this bus comes in, and then the Jester main guy gets out, and he's like, "You ding the bumper," and blows the guy away. And it's like they've taken such cool pop culture references into this. It's funny.
I think what's interesting, you're describing this game. You said like open world. You talked about all these different gameplay styles, and yet this is an independent game.
Yeah,
that sounds very impressive.
It's like 2 or 3 guys that actually made it, and all of them are here, so you can go talk to them and ask them. He said it took them about 5 years to make the game. So think about like spending 5 years of your life on something you don't know if it's going to make any money, you don't know if anyone's going to like it, you don't know even if it's going to work. But 5 years of your life because you believe in something, and that's
Especially in the open world genre changes like by the month.
Of course, and I mean it's absolutely amazing. A lot of these games, Bastion, is
Bastion is the one I'm throwing my backing behind. I love every idea in that game.
It's beautiful. It's great. It's this world that's been torn apart, and so as you're moving through it, different pieces of the world just like spring to life. So like the floor will just like suddenly rise out of nowhere, and like buildings will start come crashing down. It has a great art style, has a great look. The narrator actually has he's an actual character in the game itself, so you will actually get to meet the narrator as you progress through your journey, as you try to figure out what happened to this world around you.
He sounds a lot. If he's not Ron Perlman, he sounds exactly like Ron Perlman in the openings to Fallout games, and it's fantastic. And I go look at the trailer online because that sold me.
I want to see this guy's resume, not Ron Perlman, just like Ron Perlman.
Go play it. It has sort of like a Death Spank sort of play style where you can assign the different buttons. Different weapons. So there was like a hammer, there was a gun. You visit town, you can upgrade your character as well as different weapons. There are boss fights as you go along. Like it feels meaty. It feels like a full game. And once again, this is made by just only a couple of individuals who only had a dream to make this game. Another one that I really enjoyed was Foul Space, which is about a chicken.
And this is Foul, F-O-W-L.
Yes.
It's not stinky space, it's chicken space.
Yes. It's sort of a platformer shooter where you're a space chicken.
I'm sold. I'm sold completely.
It's a very, very interesting art direction that they have for it. It's very, everything's silhouettes. There's a lot of humor. There's a lot of comedy to it. Your health is judged by a pot of coffee on the screen.
That's just like real life.
As you get hurt, the pot of coffee goes down, so you have to drink more coffee. Enemies drop women's underwear, and so that's how you score points. Watch out for the black boxers with the white stain on them. Because if you collect those, it'll take away the points.
Given what they found at that farm in Iowa with all the salmonella poisoning, this is a shockingly timely game.
I mean, it's, but it's hard. Like, it's a tough game, and it's A lot of, I mean, these games are not necessarily the easiest games to get through. Like I was playing through, they showed like the first stage, and I was like, oh, this is really easy. But they start throwing the huge monsters, and they have this one chieftain with a giant coffee bot that he beats, and he drives everyone else insane. So all the characters become harder to kill with your space ship.
So foul space. I think this is a very good example of what we talked about on feedback before, where with games like Deathspank, with games like Limbo, just right there, can you actually that just doesn't sound like a pitch where you're going to get a green light, and that this is a space where these games that they're creative, they're funny, they have this kind of quirk about them, and this seems to be the only way that we can really get access to them because there's too much risk involved with the $60 game.
And it's great with what PAX is doing by showing off like these games. Like they get like several thousand, maybe even 10,000 applicants for this, and they just pick 10 of the best games that they really think is going to shine. And a lot of these people will go on to make bigger games in development studios, but it's great to see support someone with like a lot of creativity, a lot of love for the game. I mean, these are the same people that are sort of like you who have like a lot of passion for video games, but they want to make a game of their own, and this is their shot to do it.
And typically passion for something that once was part of games that may not be anymore because it's suddenly out of fashion, and a lot of people like us here in the room still have quite a hunger for it. I still think that the biggest issue in this indie game space is that it's just so hard, except for things like PAX, which only happens once, twice a year, to actually know when these things are available, if there's something really interesting, if there's something that two guys made, they don't have the budget to actually market it.
Well, we bring up the point all the time that, we don't know about a lot of these titles, because we're focused on, at E3, there's not really a space for them.
We're just sitting around waiting for Duke Nukem Forever, and we're forgetting that these indie games are coming out.
Yeah, there's a ton of great games, and a lot of these games you could probably go out and download them right now and play them for free, and they would be a great weekend.
Anyone here have any, comments about the indie game space? I'm going to have Mike pick so it doesn't look like I have favorites or plants in the audience to say, Adam, you're awesome or something.
I went to talk to a developer at Hothead Games today, and he said that there's a lot of risk in the downloadable market with stuff changing all the time. I was just wondering, why do you think that, or is there any way to improve the downloadable space? And what are you guys' favorite developers, like Hothead Games, Twisted Pixel?
When he said there's a lot of risk in the downloadable space, or there isn't risk?
There's a lot.
Well, did he happen to mention what he considered to be the big risks in the space?
Financial. Not finding a developer not finding a publisher to develop the game with, and pretty much working all this time just to waste all their money.
For a game that, that people don't buy. Sure.
I think we talked to the same Hothead developer today, because, and he was talking about how it's different on if you're going to do like Steam or PSN, because you can just self-publish there, but Microsoft requires you have an actual retail publisher attached to your game, or they will publish it themselves. But if you do publishing through Microsoft, you have only so many slots.
Yep, you have to hit a certain release window, and for a small team working on an indie game, you can get really, really screwed over by the release date on it. We can have a couple examples of that one.
Yeah, I know.
So funny that Hothead says that after they were so good with Deathspank, and they announced the sequel almost immediately after it was released.
Well, and those games don't get the same kind of marketing push that larger titles do.
Right.
I mean, Limbo. I mean, if Microsoft had not picked it up, I don't know if we would be discussing it at all this year. I mean, and it's clearly one of the best things that I played this year.
Definitely.
Unless that's guessing from the gentleman back there. Oh no, you're right there. I'll get to you. I promise.
Hi, name's Toby. I wanted to riff on Retro City Rampage. The game is cool, and I think that their promotional materials are awesome.
Oh yeah, they also have the fake box art.
Yeah,
goes
the
along
box
with
art
it.
and
They've actually they have cartridges. They have real Nintendo cartridges with the game.
And the rental store labels, the phony instruction books like that. And that game is obviously made by a few dudes who grew up loving games, and I think that's part of why that's turning out really well.
Yeah, it's funny because that type of marketing, there was a trick with that horror movie House of the Devil, where they were setting up press materials, and it was in a big, one of those old school '80s VHS tape cases, because they really were trying to push the idea that this was actually made in the '80s, and someone just discovered it.
They actually released the movie. You could buy the movie on VHS tape if you still happen to have a VHS player.
They did the same thing for House of the Dead Overkill in Germany 2 years ago.
House of the Dead Overkill was released in Germany?
No. They at Gamescom.
Really?
And it wasn't really. It was all the promotional stuff came in like an old tape case. I found it while I was moving 2 weeks ago.
Wow, that's just House of the Dead Overkill definitely, I think, passes whatever that strange German threshold of no, this is
Yeah, they're
this is bad.
really crazy about the violence in games. You have to be very careful. It's really difficult to get the German approval on games.
Oh yeah,
they don't
had
get all the good stuff. If you've
Torchlight 2 was shrouded because they said it was too violent.
Did you get a chance when you were in Germany for Gamescom this year to go into a German GameStop? Because I did that when I was there, and it is so different. Like there's a ton of sports titles and NT titles,
games,
but then like all the games that I normally look for, it was like, what?
They have like behind an adults-only curtain that you have to go.
Is it
No,
called
there's
GameStop
not there.
in Germany, or is it GameStop and Stippen Schnitzel?
Game Halt.
GameStop.
Jahre Halt. Achtung.
No, it was actually a GameStop.
All right.
I think. This was a while ago.
I'm going to open up GameStop and Stippen Schlappen. Let's take one more from that guy over there with regard to in the games.
Adam, you are awesome.
Yeah. Meet me afterwards. I'll give you the tenner. I promise you. Okay.
All right, so recently a director made a movie based on what America and the rest of the world does throughout their daily lives. I don't know if you guys heard about this.
I'm sorry, one more time. He did a movie.
He made a movie where he took people to record a certain part of their life, just, hey, what do you do during this day? And he's going to go through the film and make a movie, right? And so what I was thinking what for sure would sell on especially this independent market, right, is if somebody took feedback from all of us, right, our favorite parts of what a game is, right? Of what we would want. Because if I was going to go into a game, I would have my own favorite parts, Adam. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would have a direct, what I think would sell. And instead, if somebody took pieces from each one of us, right, and put it together to, pick and choose, of course, but go through all that data and pick and choose something, right, that would encompass what we all want. What do you think the odds of that are of happening?
Well, I think what you're talking about in a way is sort of, that's why games have community managers, and I think you're seeing so many developers right now that are paying so much attention to fans and to what people in their community want, and everything that, like, we find all the problems in a game. Gamers are the greatest beta testers ever. We're all game testers, and we're so lucky to have games that are no longer like, you get what comes in the box, and that's it.
And you're going to like it. And it's
now,
called ET.
That can work against you. What are you talking about?
Too soon.
That can work against you sometimes, but I think it's fantastic that at least, when something really breaks or if something goes wrong and we can get additional content, I just don't want anybody shipping an unfinished product and hoping to clean it up later.
I think the one point about
playing
taking
Elemental,
kind
by
of
the
the
way?
best parts.
Is anyone playing Elemental, by the way?
Fans? Oh, we got two.
Hey, you know what I'm talking about.
You know.
I had a friend once who actually was saying, like, what if you could get a song that's like just the good part of a song? Like, there's always that great hook or something. We pointed out that's what AC/DC does. But but I think the one thing is that sometimes the part of the game that isn't good is kind of essential because it makes the part that is so good all the more, it's. Actually, this is the best segue in the world into Mafia 2.
Well done.
That was fantastic.
There you go.
should have seen us try to do segues last week when you weren't here. It was like a lot of blank staring, and then Matt would say something, and we'd be like,
I
good
think
enough.
Matt did a pretty good job.
EA's a big company. Speaking of big, how's Kirby? But yeah, I still think there was too much driving in Mafia 2, but at the same time, if they took all of that out and you just went from episode to episode to episode, I think that the
It would
game
be
wouldn't
really
feel
short.
Right.
Yeah, very
It would be a little bit short.
Well, I got up to, before we had to leave for PAX, like, I have like 2 more chapters to go, and so if you've spoiled
There's
the
more
ending,
men in
whatever.
suits and hats.
Yeah, it has a happy ending, right? Yeah. And all things with the mob do. And I was not at the point yet where I was too sick of the driving because I actually liked the music so much and driving my old-timey car, listening to the old-timey music, that it was kind of like a happy place. And I had a coworker that when he played Bully just liked to mow the lawn so he would get in trouble because he found it very soothing. And it was sort of getting to that level.
I wasn't too tired of the driving, except I got tired of driving to Joe's specifically.
I want to be everybody's chauffeur.
What's wrong with Joe's?
Quick show of hands. Who's played Mafia 2 or is playing it or is planning to play it? Okay, good. There's some relevance. Great. Back to you.
The driving, like it's the worst when you complete a mission that requires a lot of driving, like that gas stamp mission.
Oh, the gas
You have to
stamp
go to all the
mission.
gas stations and sell them
Time driving
ration
missions.
gas
What's
stamps
wrong
that
with
expire
you?
the next day. And you do it, you're finished, you're like, oh, thank God. And then a cop starts chasing you, and you're like, oh my God. And you get in this big car chase. And then if you crash too hard, you actually die in this game right away. So
Oh,
then
I had the
then it
best-
bumps you back to the beginning of that. You have to go back and do every gas station.
I had the best moment ever where I was driving through and I was totally going to blow through the intersection because I don't follow any traffic rules in games. And whatever I did somehow triggered the kind of car AI. And right in front of me, this truck just nails the car in front of me and like both go scattering out of the intersection at like the exact same time I was driving through. The game like cleared
Just
a path.
clearing a
It was
path
amazing.
for you.
Yeah.
It's one of those also because I actually tried because I was so impressed with the world in this game. It's so well articulated that I kind of wanted to respect traffic laws. It just felt right.
That's the whole fun of driving in a video game.
The speed
You don't
limiter.
have to.
The speed limiter is actually a nice touch because so many times driving too fast will get you into so much
it'll
trouble.
get you a ticket. That's one of the reasons. But the thing is, no one in the game of all the car AI is actually following the laws. But what they're doing is when the light turns green, they're just happy to chill there. And I'm like, they were kind of trying to push you with the fact that if you sped, you got a ticket to actually respect it. But then they couldn't get that AI programming. We are really nitpicking on aspects of this game right now. I just realized.
Well, you're going to make a hyper-detailed world. The lack of detail in certain areas is going to show off. I mean, early on in the game, I kept closing all the doors I walked
Me
through
too,
because
I thought
I
people
thought
would
it'd
be
be
mad.
rude.
Yes.
Matt, I've got to ask you, do you close doors behind you at home?
No, because no one else lives there.
No, why do you? People just
But
play
if I'm
some
leaving my
old-
mom's apartment, yes, I will
Yeah.
close the door, just like
But
in
then maybe
Mafia.
it's olden-timey America. People were so much more polite back
But it's the mafia. I don't want to do anything to make them mad.
Yeah,
like
sure.
I mean,
Yeah,
we
that
brought up
too.
when Modern Warfare came out and there was the airport scene that like I totally shot people because I thought that they would figure out that I was a plant. Otherwise, like I was
Yeah.
playing into the psychology of it.
I mean, I think the thing is that I think that always speaks to how well the game is, portraying the world. Is that's more what immersion is supposed to be, that kind of trigger in your brain that you're buying into something that really isn't there. I mean, I think that's because, A, the world is so detailed, and I just think that the story really was very well written.
It is, and the music just kills me, and not just the kind of licensed tracks from earlier. The actual just music.
Yeah, the original
game
score was
music
really
is
good.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was. I think the best part. I don't know if this happens in everyone's playthrough, but when you first are in the car and you're driving through the city of Empire Bay, it's this beautiful, February. It's snowy. It's sunset, and baby, it's cold outside.
Yep.
It's playing on the. That's where like, okay, this is actually really, really awesome.
Yeah, they definitely pick the songs for the for many of the moments in the game.
And I can't imagine that a couple of those actually came cheap. I mean, like Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy of Company B is
Not as popular as it used to be.
Well,
It might have been easy to pick that one up, I think. Probably.
It's not
For
probably
anyone
not
watching
like,
the History Channel who might still think World War II is happening, that probably really gives them a good shot in the arm.
They probably didn't pay as much as like for say Limp Bizkit or something. So.
Justin Bieber.
Right. Oh.
Again with the Justin
Bringing it up
Bieber.
on every-
Always with the Justin Bieber.
Now,
If they make
one
that
thing
Back to
that
the
I
Future
really,
movie.
I really remarked on when playing the game is in the course of the story, you play. I'm blanking on his name. One of
Vito.
those- Yeah,
Vito.
Vito, like Vito Corleone. But usually, and even in other mob games, you play this guy, start slow, move up the ranks, then you're very, very powerful. This doesn't happen with him. He stays kind of like a second-tier soprano thug throughout the game.
He's everybody's driver.
Well, and he's not very smart either.
No, he makes a lot of bad decisions.
And you as the player, are in this fascinating position where, assuming you've seen a mob movie, which I assume you would if you were going to be buying Mafia 2, you're like, getting into heroin deals never seems to work out well in these movies.
I only watched Boogie Nights up till 1984, so I'm not sure if you remember that.
He does have amazing hair, though. He's got that jet black oiled hair that's just so perfect.
And all that.
I loved his hair.
well, that makes up for the heroin dealing. Yeah.
But I mean, the thing is, you spend a lot of the
That's how he
game
pays for it.
not so much trying to, sort of save something. Like if you're Master Chief, you're trying to, kind of save people from the flood or save a planet. And here, you're just saving your own dumb ass from your own mistakes.
Pretty much.
Well, to be fair, you are saving. You're paying for your mom or your dad's something or other.
Yeah, that's all
they
the
got
beginning.
into debt.
You have to get some debt back.
But you pay that off pretty quickly.
But
so.
it's an odd relationship that you suddenly have with the character there that you don't really. What's at stake is something that you don't kind of get tricked into being. You're kind of helpless watching this guy go down a certain.
Yeah, well, I
path.
never felt like I was really playing as Vito in that regard. I never self-identified with him. I always felt like I was watching someone do these things which was not a negative thing.
No,
it was an
no,
interesting
it's-
story, and as you say, that's unusual because even in the first Mafia, I think you had like a girlfriend and you had family you were dealing with, and that's one of the reasons you turn informant in Mafia 1.
There was nudity in the first Mafia.
Yeah, I remember that.
It was like chapter 6.
Nudity
And I
in
was
this
like,
one.
whoa!
Nudity in a really frustrating car race.
There's
That's all I
Playboys
remember.
in
There's
it.
the Playboys
Playboy
in this
magazine.
one.
Let's talk about this because I actually there were so few anachronisms in this game. And I first thought that Baby It's Cold Outside came out later than what was 1945. I went and looked it up, and no, they're accurate on that. There were not Playboys.
No,
Playboy's
way
57, I think.
Yeah, it's a little late for the timeline.
I mean, it does. They're also very hard to find, and given the fact that a lot of these shootouts in the game can be really tough if you don't pay close attention. The idea is like, hold on, there's a nudie bag over there.
These boxes.
I gotta get it. It's a collectible. I gotta have it. Yeah, it's exactly.
I was playing at work, and so every time I found one, it like pops up on the screen. It's just, and I'm like, look, we're not the only people who work in our office. There are other people who have nothing to do with video games, and they walk by my desk like every 5 minutes.
And they all work at E.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like, that's not a Kardashian.
It's Ryan
traffic's
Seacrest
in that
walking
kind
by
of thing. I don't think it's,
for the first
Yeah.
time in his life. I think. Actually.
I also like that they track how much time you spend looking at the
They do.
centerfold.
Yeah. They do.
There's a stat for that.
I didn't
They know.
that.
It does track that. That's true.
I think the part they like the most about the Playboys, though, it's all these classic Playboy photos. And I think it's easy to say, yes, they were a lot more tasteful back then. But the poses the women are in, it's always just like, oh, hello there. I just happen to be naked.
Oh.
But my hair is perfectly up.
You've caught me unawares.
But have you ever
and
played?
naked?
Have you ever played the best video game ever, which is it's like erotic photo hunt. It's at bars basically,
Oh,
and you
that
point out
is
the differences
great.
between the photos with the girls that are topless.
Oh, is
or-
that stuff that they also have the
But they're all
poker on
dressed
it?
kind of
Yeah.
like Blossom. It's so weird, and I hope they never update that game ever.
They should never.
I hope you
Erotic
never make
photo
another
hunts.
Blossom.
We
Right?
just call it touch for short.
Maybe just clean the screen every so often.
We should have just billed this as talking about boobs, and we would
You're
have gotten
touching it.
more
Talk.
people.
Then we can have one called Talk, but it's for detectives.
Nice.
If anyone has any questions or inquiries about Mafia 2,
Oh, we got like one back there.
feel free to raise your hand. We're going to freeform it here now.
Yeah, there have been claims in the media that Mafia 2 reinforces negative stereotypes of Italian Americans, which honestly I thought was kind of ridiculous and oversensitive. And I was just wondering what your thoughts were on that. And also, you were very gracious when I met you yesterday, Adam. I appreciate it. Thank you.
What are you talking about? You think everyone talking like this? Come on.
Hey.
I mean, I guess the one thing is that this is, I think I talked about it in the review, that this is not in America as we're supposed to recognize it as history, but it's an America that's really a sort of a mythology. Just like Red Dead is a mythology of the Old West that has virtually no bearing, but it's a lot cooler than what really happened because it smelled a lot more like poop in the real Old West.
Yeah, and well, so did New York actually, because all the
Yeah.
horses.
Yeah.
And that's actually why they have the large stoops in front of apartments, because the horse would pile up so high in the streets that it was difficult to walk around.
This is such a
That's one to
educational
grow
show.
on.
And
There you go.
But,
The more you know.
But I mean, now to be fair, I mean we have pointed out other games that when doing certain depictions of groups, be them an immigrant group or minority group, that they don't tread too carefully. I guess that these mob images have become so enshrined, sort of in the popular imagination, that it's very, very divorced from what I think we now regard as actual Italian Americans.
Yeah, well, also the complaint that I think you're referring to was like one of the problems I had was that like it singled out Italian Americans as these sole
Yeah.
violent groups, and I don't think they played the game because just about every ethnic group you can think of in New York is represented. There's the Irish
Yeah, there is
gangs
an
and
Irish gang
and
and-
the black gangs and the Chinese gangs and the
And the
everyone
greasers.
is in on it. The
Oh, yeah.
greasers.
Yeah, there's like the greasers pop up for a second, and I was like, Kanicki's like that bad at dude, and you're just shooting all these guys in their leather jackets, talking,
I mean, really, the only decent people in Mafia 2 are like your mother and your sister.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
it. Everyone else is kind of horrible.
American.
Yeah, it is. It really is. It is one of the more unsavory worlds, and really, unsavory worlds is kind of the bread and butter of video games. But I think this one, just because once again it's so well represented, it's just kind of like, ugh.
Yeah. Plus, it has all the casual racism from the
Yeah.
characters,
Yeah.
which,
Oh, yeah.
like, they just don't think anything of it. They're not making a comment of it. It's just kind of how you imagine they
Yeah.
talked back then, I guess.
So let's have someone else.
Howdy. Given that Mafia 2 kind of exists in this weird in-between world when it comes to open world and not, and
It's open, but it's not. There's no reason to explore.
right, I've kind of been noticing that there seems to be like a weird divide in video games. There seems to be games like Uncharted 2 where like the story is crafted by a developer and told to the player, and then there's games like Borderlands, which is all about making the story. The player makes the story itself. I happen to prefer like the former of the two. But I just want
like the Uncharted, like it's a very deliberate tale that's being
right. But
I love how you're avoiding saying linear because that's become a pejorative and it shouldn't be.
I just want to know, like, where do you all kind of hit on that, or is it kind of that black and white to you
I mean,
guys?
it really depends on the game, and but I noticed what you were saying is something that I think we saw in Alan Wake as well, where you have this game that looks like Mafia 2 that's built on this what appears to be a sort of large open world, and at the same time I think that they saw that telling that story was so important, and they kind of cut out all those other elements, and it's created almost sort of its own weird new genre, because Mafia 2 it's very, very similar way. It all depends on how that narrative is told. I love those games. I also love Borderlands. So, it depends on the developer.
It depends, like if it's Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah.
Though I want to point out is that one of the reasons I think that really exemplifies why I think they made the right decision with Mafia 2, and some of you may disagree with me, but the Prince of Persia remake from 2 years ago. I'm not going to talk about like the quality of the game or the gameplay, but because you could kind of put the game together and go in your own path, but you are going to eventually hit all those various elements, it weakens the narrative considerably because you have to be able to design it that you could get to that story point at any given time inside the game. And I think even Grand Theft Auto 4, it kind of loses track of the core story, and every so often you get back on track with it, like, oh yeah, I forgot that's really what the main impetus is going on.
And you're also thinking about those areas as a gamer. You're like, well, okay, I've seen this huge world map. I know eventually I'm going to need to get here. Should I just go there now? Should I think about it? Whereas if you're guided there, it's a much more enjoyable experience, depending on the game.
Yeah, it depends.
Kind of guided.
Yeah, kind of
I
pointed in there.
in Grand, I just wanted my friends to stop calling me and asking me to play darts. I'm like, I just started a mission. Come on, because
Getting
you don't
upset
even,
when you
don't,
didn't want to.
Yeah,
you don't
exactly.
have the option of saying, like, look, buddy, don't be a like, I'll call you later.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the thing to remember, I think, in the structured things, people sometimes forget that like gameplay is also narrative.
Yeah.
And like when you mentioned Uncharted, I thought of like when I played the first Uncharted, I brought this up to you, and now it's a pretty common observation, but it's like he's kind of this happy-go-lucky sort of, whoa, we're having a wacky time sort of character, and he's killing like hundreds of people. and there's that one point where where he's like, we got to get out of here, it's crazy, and Elena's just like, what? We got to find the thing. It's like, you've killed like 25 people in the last 10 minutes. You're really cool about this for a journalist. I don't know. And so the gameplay has to serve the needs of what you want the game to do, but at the same time, like, you got to remember your story in the middle of all that.
If there was just like one DLC for Uncharted 1 that you got where Drake suddenly goes, man, I'm just a sociopath. Then
He just washes his hands for like minutes on end. So dirty. So dirty.
We still have a little bit of time left, so you can ask another question about Mafia 2, or this is when we typically be doing our question of the week, which usually we select ahead of time. So like, that's a smart question. Obviously, we can't do that, so the pressure is on you. But yeah, so we're kind of just opening it up to stuff.
All right. Should we wait till everyone's here or just start talking?
Start talking. Go for it.
Go for it.
There are times that you'll be playing games, and I guess, do you ever feel like if you took a different expectation for it, you would have enjoyed it more, but you put a preconceived expectation on a game, and it's ruined the experience, but when you went back to play it, you realized, hey, this is actually a fairly good, entertaining game, if I just looked at it from a different perspective?
Yes. That just happened to me last week when I finally went back and played Resistance 1 again, which I didn't really like the first time I played it because I think I was expecting it to be Call of Duty 2.
And it was the big game for the PS3, and there was all those expectations around that.
And I'll tell you, having kind of cleared my mind of all that, I'm enjoying it much more now. And the other thing that's helping is the implementation of the DualShock.
Yes.
That you can get the rumble on.
Because you don't know you're being shot at, just not something vibrating in your hand. I know this has happened to me. I think, though, I've sometimes gone into a game with a negative expectation and have been just wonderfully surprised that it's a much better experience.
Yeah, I think that's almost more common with me. I'm trying to think of a specific game that I've felt that way about, but there's not. I'm having trouble.
There was one
thinking of
just recently that happened to us with. I don't remember.
StarCraft 2, because the first one was so bad, you were just like, I'm totally going to hate the sequel. Oh my god.
Yeah, StarCraft 2 was one. Because I was like, oh, I don't want to play this. I don't want to get into this. And like, yeah, I was completely blown away.
Well, going back to the Mafia, like Godfather, I didn't love the first Godfather game. Godfather 2 game came out, and I was like, do I want to play this? It ended up being a great game. I enjoyed it a lot. You get to run. That kind of handled the Mafia aspect a little more better than
Well,
Mafia
this was
2
like
did.
not so much Mafia. It was that you're not really Mafia. You're just a thug.
Yeah, and you're running your businesses and collecting cash.
You know, live a stinky apartment most of the time.
Yeah.
Just,
Bad.
crime doesn't pay. That's what I'm saying. Next question.
Adam, what did you call me? You said future. The forum name was Future Designer 2. Anyways, did you guys get a chance to look at the exposition hall?
I have not gotten to.
Anyone?
Oh, yes. The exposition hall, the floor here?
Yeah, the floor.
Yes.
Did any of you get a chance to look at the MMOs that they were featuring over there?
I played about half an hour at Guild Wars 2, which I was pretty impressed by because I gotta say, like, my focus was on Cataclysm and Old Republic recently, and I keep bringing up those games, and various people, including a guy I know online, 404. This guy named 404 kept saying Guild Wars 2, Guild Wars 2, Guild Wars 2. So I finally went to see Guild Wars 2 because I'm like, all right, fine, just so I know what it is. And I was pretty impressed. They're breaking some paradigms. I'm kind of excited about this sort of MMO 2.0 thing that's going on, where people are finally no longer afraid to make something that isn't just World of Warcraft with a different skin on it. Like, they're trying to make a different, massively multiplayer game. And one of these is going to be, one or more of these are going to be awesome, and I'm looking forward to those.
I played some Torchlight too.
Of course, you love that Torchlight.
How was Torchlight
You
2?
carry a torch for the Torchlight.
Well,
You guys
Torchlight-
got to play it. It's great.
The first Torchlight was great. Like, it was once again one of these like smaller games that people were just like, oh, we're just going to make this game because we love what we're doing. And yeah, it was a great. I mean, yeah, single player, sort of endless, loot fest that you're going through. But it was gorgeous. It was fun. How is 2? Actually, I'm curious.
It's great. They added multiplayer, and the art has changed a little bit, and we don't have to talk about it.
Kevin should have his own panel on Torchlight too.
Go play it. Go try it. It's great. It's really good.
Okay.
So I was wondering if, going back from what you're saying, Mafia, where it's kind of open, but you are stay on track, like Alan Wake and stuff. A good example of the things that I've seen is gaming's going to continue to do like the pretend MMO RPG where, like Final Fantasy 12, where it basically feels like a chore you have to complete because you lose track of the storyline and kind of it developed. Do you think that games are really going to push for that for the future? Because I don't know if it was received well, kind of deal.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these, you can see, situations where some game, let's just call it Red Dead Redemption, does well, and then, the heads of all these other publishers are like, we need more open world. He's like, what's this game? It's a puzzle game. I want an open world puzzle game. And that does happen.
An open world, I would play that.
Making a game, they're trying to fit what they want to do into what is kind of the mandate from someone running the studio, and I think that's why you sometimes get stuff that has unnecessary open world aspects to it.
Like Bejeweled, the MMO.
Yes.
I just got a text from Morgan. So far, the only major announcement is that Darth Revan is in the game.
Well, some people are very
How am I
excited.
possibly going to follow that up?
I think there's no. I think there's more.
there's
coming.
still
More coming. It sounds
I have money writing
that
with
was
other
your first.
people.
I don't think that was the announcement that was going to make everyone think.
Because I'm still conscious.
Next question.
So, excluding Duke Nukem, what is the one thing that you guys are extremely excited about that you guys saw here at PAX?
I walked straight over to the Portal 2 booth.
Oh, yeah. Well, you got to demo it.
Yeah, I'm about to say, Valve asked Abby to do a guest demo of the game.
It's a blast. I love the robots that you're playing in the co-op. They have like emote buttons, so you can wave at each other and you can hug.
They can hug.
And it's just adorable. Well, yeah. So when you completely kill your partner, which is what they did to me, they gave me a hug to make me feel better.
Did you?
Did you?
Did you feel better?
Yeah, I felt much better. I was kind of happy anyway because I
Nice.
was playing Portal 2, but
I think my top game right now is probably Epic Mickey. Yeah. Disney Epic Mickey.
Yes.
Full title. Sorry.
Did you get to see the full? I know Warren showed it, and we're going to have it on the show soon. I don't know if it's going to be in its entirety, but the entire of the opening cinematic. And I think
yeah, I saw that online.
It's just absolutely. I just realized I haven't seen a Mickey Mouse cartoon in so long, and it's like,
There's no
so
way
cool
to. You
see
can't
that.
really do it unless you go and find them somewhere on the internet or something.
You need to find, like, they have those tin DVD sets from a few years ago that go for like $150 now. But I like old animation, and I'm an old animation fan, and so to see people like Oswald and some of those like proto Disney characters in that game is that's one of those I never thought it would happen sort of things.
Rob?
I mean, like the PAX 10 stuff. I mean, I'm always interested in seeing like what people are developing, and as much as I sort of knew going into it like this and that about each of the games. Actually getting your hands on it and playing it and seeing like how deep and how much love like a lot of people have put into these games is always just like fascinating and amazing. And it's just there's also a lot of other like small indie developers along the way, so it's more than just the PAX 10. I highly encourage everyone to play Spy Party.
Yeah, Spy Party is one to look at, and the Swarm.
The Swarm. Dwarves is also a very interesting one. It's sort of like Dwarf Fortress, where you basically, they send out dwarves to dig through mines randomly, but you can run into stuff. You're finding things. Like it's a game where in the end you're going to die, and the question is, how long are you going to survive?
Like life.
Yes, just like life.
That was deep.
On that note, Kevin, what do you like?
I won't talk about that again. I won't even say that word, I swear, for the rest of the day. I played a little Infamous 2, which is playable at the booth, and they have these really cool plasma tube things you can, with electricity shooting through them in front of their booth, which is awesome to play with if you get bored out there. Duke was really the thing that really impressed me. It's hard not to be just bowled over that it's actually coming. Other things that I saw, all the same indie games that Rob was talking about were great. Retro City Rampage is still, I think, a highlight for me. I've also been walking through the tabletop gaming areas a lot because I'm a huge tabletop dork. And if you guys want to play later, please find me and pull me into a game of Dungeon Lord or something like that. But for me, it's like seeing the people, the people that dress up. Like, we've seen some crazy costumes.
See Commander Shepard, because that was...
Yes, the Mass Effect cosplayers were incredible.
There's also an excellent Ulala out there somewhere.
Yeah.
Yes.
You guys see the problem, though? It happened a couple times. I've seen a couple kind of uniformed security guys with badges, and I can't tell if it's a costume or not. And so I'm just respecting everyone now. Instead of that.
Nice.
The one, I'm using this as a segue. I'm very excited about Ratchet & Clank All for One, because in probably 20 minutes, I'm heading over to moderate that panel, because they're going to be showing some stuff off of that game. I'm a huge Ratchet & Clank fan, and it looks like they're doing a cooperative game that is far more thoughtful in how they're putting it all together. It's not just, hey, if we add 4 more people, you won't take it back to the store. I think we have time for one more question.
Okay, a few years back, I picked up Mount and Blade off the advice of the forums. I'm just curious, of all time, what's your biggest independent game you've sunk the most time into that have just stayed on your hard drive or your 360 or PS3?
Oh, that's a good question.
That's a great question.
Anybody play Machinarium? That game that from the Swedish developers or something?
Yeah.
That is an awesome, great... It's kind of like Myst in a very bizarre,
Oh, yeah.
tiny world.
It's just also the art direction is absolutely astonishing.
Great game.
Machinarium. I always get tripped up when I see it. I try to read it in a VO session. I'm like, Machinarium.
I still play that one.
You know which one I really like? Cogs, the puzzle game. I can just fiddle with, and I feel stupid while I play it because it's so much more smart than me, but it really is quite satisfying when I finally figure out how to do one of those puzzles.
I think mine would be Escape Velocity Nova on the Mac, especially with the Star Wars mod that let me fly a Star Destroyer around. I was into that.
I was going to go with Minesweeper, so no. But I love it. I mean, seriously.
That's an indie called Microsoft, right?
You know my problem with little addictive tiny games, like the amount of hours I sunk into playing Droplets last year, which was incredible for me. And it was 2 a.m, and I'd be like, oh my God, I've been playing for 6 hours, and I didn't even know that time passed. Anything that's that repetitive clicking, just triggers something. It's not healthy.
Yeah. Plants vs. Zombies.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I knew it was a great game going into it, but like playing it, you can just play it over and over and over, getting the money, trying to buy the new plants, so you have to get more money, so you can buy those plants, so you can put
I think also
fertilizer.
the humor makes the replayability
No.
so much more replayable.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anything
It's
with
been
a
a
tower
long day.
defense element for me
It has
is
a
pretty
tower
much
defense
going
element,
to
but it's also there's a
win.
lot of strategy. There's the whole endless rush where you're trying to like just keep going, just to see how many waves of zombies you can take like over and over again, which is amazing.
With that over and over again, obviously.
Hold on. Jason needs to put up one more image again.
Okay.
'Cause I was
One more
really-
time?
We took this picture like months ago of Adam, and this is the Serious Cat one. And Jason, who's fantastic, put this together last night for me to surprise Adam with, because he looks so much like Serious Cat. It's not.
There was
funny.
a problem at one point where actually there was a week right after Abby made this discovery where she couldn't look at me without laughing, which made getting anything done in the office very, very challenging.
Yeah, can we give a round of applause for Jason? He's been running the images back there. And we have our producer, Frank Meyer, right here.
You
running
see him
camera.
behind the
Very good.
camera each week.
So once again, thank you all for coming. This is obviously Feedback at PAX. Feedback will always be up on G4TV.com, and that is every Wednesday. Also want to remind all of you, hopefully you know, but if you don't, X-Play is having a panel tomorrow in the main theater inside the convention center, and that is at 11:30. There will be fun and surprises. This is only a taste of what's coming up next. Thank you all so much for joining us.
And we didn't hear from Morgan in
We haven't
time
heard
about the
anything yet.
Star Wars thing, so I'm sorry. We
Check your
tried,
Twitter
but I
feeds.
think they're running
Yeah.
late too.
So,
All right,
bye guys.
folks.
Thank you.
Everyone plays
Thank
his
you.
game.
Going strong, see what the honeys is about. Moet poppin', ho poppin', ain't no stopping, Big Papa.
Hello there. I'm Adam Sessler, host of X-Play, editor-in-chief at G4TV.com. I talk a lot about video games, and sometimes a camera is in front of me when I'm doing that. We call that Sessler's Soapbox. It takes about 2 minutes of your time, but trust me, you will hear invective and joy and probably a lot of rude things like you've never heard before in the context of video games. I do it for you, so you should check it out. It's up every Tuesday on G4TV.com.